show up in our office and done something wrong.
No, not at all. I was showing her a mirror. It says, "The city is me," in red lipstick.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Board of Adjustment. Is it on? Pull it up. Is that better? Close enough. Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order. Next item on the agenda is to receive the minutes. Did everybody look at those?
Motion to receive the August 7th, 2025 meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Cast your votes. Okay, received. Cindy, do you have any requests for continuance?
I have no requests.
Is there an applicant or protester here that wants to request a continuance on an item? I don't have a consent docket, so I think we're ready for number one.
So we have item number one, case number 16015 is a request of Box Law Group on behalf of Claudia Jean Vickery and Jeremiah Romanos or Marla Romanos for a variance to the minimum lot width and hard surface paving located at 9617 South Check Hall Road.
Good afternoon, David Box, 525 Northwest 11th, here on behalf of the applicant. We seek two variances today, the first being the minimum lot width. As you can tell, this is kind of a flag lot. All we have is 50 feet. The ordinance requires 150. Without the variance, we cannot develop the property. So we seek that variance, and additionally, we seek to have the driveway remain gravel. Public Works has standards they have in place for such instances. We are required by Public Works to pave the approach, but then after that, it's not uncommon in an agricultural zoned area to have gravel drive, so that's what we seek. Those are the two. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments from the board?
I'll just make a couple of comments, and one is that both lots will be larger than 5 acres.
Yes, sir.
And it's in harmony with the existing other properties. There's a lot of gravel driveways there, and it is a typical way to access landlocked property. So I'm in agreement with it.
I don't have anybody signed up on this one. Does anyone want to address the board on this application? Anything else from the board?
David, what'd you say your minimum lot width would be?
I'm sorry?
What was your minimum lot width?
50.
Okay.
Ready for a motion?
Make a motion to approve case number 16015 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the requested variance.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes.
You have to do two, since there are two variances.
Oh, yeah.
Did you mention both of them? The one? You
I
just
just
said the one.
I just mentioned the case number.
Oh, the case number?
Yes.
Okay, then,
Motion to approve the case number.
it's covered.
Okay. My vote's the same.
Thank you.
Okay.
Item number 2, case number 15995 is a request of Christian Fuentes for a variance to accessory building regulations and carport standards located at 2131 Southwest 20th Street. And he submitted revised photos of his carport.
Yep. Okay, give us your name and address and
Yes,
tell us about the application, please.
Christian Cifuentes of address 2131 Southwest 20th. Here for a variance for, we downsized the existing carport to get a building permit. So we uploaded photos of the, it's now 1,000 square feet.
Okay. Questions or comments on structure in the back?
So just for me, is the variance to the lot coverage not needed now for the 1,000 square feet? Because there are 1,000 square feet.
Sarah Welch, Planning Department. Yes, if they've reduced the size of the accessory structure to 1,000 feet or smaller, then we don't think they need the variance to 12200.2C, but that they would still need the variance to 12200.3A so that they can go ahead and get that permit for their home.
Okay. I don't have anybody signed up to speak on this one. Does anybody want to address the board on this application? I think we're ready.
I'll make a motion to approve case number 15995 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the requested variance.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Hang on, you're almost done. Now cast your votes. Now you're approved.
Thank you.
Item number 3, case number 16037 is a request of Kyle and Stacy White for a variance to the located at 1805 Deep Creek Road.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ben Grubb, 705 Northwest 4th Street. On behalf of applicants Kyle and Stacy White, 1805 Deep Creek Road, located within the Oaks 3rd addition to Oklahoma City. Applicants are here today because they'd like to put a swimming pool in their backyard, and their property, as you can see on page 37 of the packet, is kind of irregularly shaped in terms of its lot size. Applicants originally approached the HOA, which owns the common area G to the north, seeking a deed and then adjustment of a lot line. The HOA stated they were unable to do that, so the compromise that was reached was the grant of a perpetual use easement, which has been recorded. And the swimming pool that would be put in the renderings, of which I think we just looked through there, and especially on page 40 of the packet, the swimming pool would sit almost exclusively within the setback with a slight encroachment into the easement area located on the HOA's property. So the applicants would like to request a variance to allow installation of the swimming pool according to the renderings there. They've expended approximately $25,000 preparing the site, regrading it to accommodate a pool, and that's depicted on page 48 of the packet. And there are several other homes in the addition that appear to have pools or driveways or other structures that are encroaching upon lot lines or easements. And the applicant is a vice president of operations for an electric company. Mrs. White is a professional accountant, and they were never not going to do this the right way. So when they submitted their application for a permit with the city, they were told that we needed to appear today and seek this variance.
Questions, comments?
Anyone sign up to speak?
No, nobody signed up on this one. Is there anyone who wants to address the board on this application? None?
And there are no utilities in that utility easement either, right? The sewer and the water are both in the front.
Correct.
Ready for a motion?
All right. I'll make a motion to approve case number 16037 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the requested variance.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. They're approved.
Thank you.
Item number 4, case number 16019 is a request of Box Law Group on behalf of ARW South LLC for a variance to service building and closed drawing facilities requirement for a mobile home park located at 2401 Southeast 59th.
Once again, David Box, 525 Northwest 11th. This is one that I believe you've seen a few of these in the past. So the way that the code is worded really kind of predates modern mobile homes. It used to be that these types of uses did not have independent hookups within the units, and therefore it was mandated that you had centralized laundry facilities. All new units now have individual hookups within the unit, and so these centralized locations for laundry are no longer needed. It would literally just be a waste of space sitting there. So this is consistent with multiple other variances this board has granted. Happy to answer any questions. I would ask for your approval.
Nobody signed up on this one. Is there anyone here who wants to address the board on this application? No.
And just to say that I looked up the area and there was 7 other laundromats within close proximity to this property, so.
Yeah.
Anything else from the board? Ready for a motion?
No. My only question is, at some point, do we need to revise the ordinance? Or?
Yes.
Yes.
All
Much as
right.
I like coming and seeing you all on these, yes, it needs to be.
I don't know who needs to do that. Or
Well, it's not us.
I know. Well, I know. I'm just throwing that out there just to make sure. All right. Motion to approve case number 16019 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the requested variance.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes.
Thank you.
Item number 5, case number 16038 is a request of Johnson & Associates on behalf of Stokedale LLC for a variance to parking requirements located at 8101 North I-35 Service Road.
Good afternoon, Mark Zidzow with Johnson & Associates, 1 East Sheridan Avenue. Before you is a personal storage facility, if you can go to the aerial, that was constructed a couple years ago. It's recently sold, and through this sale, what came about was that during the construction phase, 12 parking spaces weren't constructed. If you're familiar with personal storage units, there's not a need to have large amounts of excess parking because the user and the renter of a unit drives right up to their unit. This one's unique in that all of the units are contained within a building. So there's central drives that cut through the building where someone pulls in to load and unload. So at the time of the sale, it was noted that this variance was required to make the site compliant. So we're here requesting that. We did receive a call from one of the adjacent neighbors. I don't know if she's here today. She was not opposed. In fact, I believe what she stated was less impervious paving on this site, the better. But I don't know if she reached out or if she's here today. So with that, we'd be happy to answer any questions, but we would ask for your approval, which will allow the finalization of this sale and this project to occur.
Anyone signed up?
Nobody signed up on this one. Does anyone want to address the board on this application?
I drive by this property every single day on the way to work. There's usually no cars there, so any additional parking is not necessary.
Okay. Anything else? Ready for a motion?
Motion to approve. Motion to approve case number 16038 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the requested variance.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you.
Item number 6, case number 16009 is a request of Johnson & Associates on behalf of Mid-Park Real Estate LLC for a variance to the limits of no access established for Northeast 63rd Street at 6200 North Martin Luther King Avenue.
Mark Zitzow, Johnson & Associates, 1 East Sheridan Avenue. Before you use a property, I think that is long overdue to be developed. It's in the Adventure District. If you were to zoom out slightly, you'd see Remington Park to the south, College Softball Hall of Fame, Girl Scouts campus. This is a growing area that desperately needs other services than these frequently used sports facilities. The project before you currently, there are existing buildings that have sand volleyball and an indoor volleyball complex. Along the frontage, there's a Starbucks and a hotel coming. As part of the requirement are some driveways. We filed a variance to allow for a driveway onto MLK probably 16 months ago. At that time, we had amended the application to add in the driveway that we're requesting. After some review, I think it was determined we didn't need that variance because of the way the PUD was written. There was another line within the PUD that had an additional restriction, and we removed that request at that time. So when we got to building permit and realized we needed that variance, we thought, oh shucks. So here we are again, asking for that driveway. Caleb Morgan's here. He's going to address some traffic comments that were in your staff report. The drive that we're requesting is the one that's a subject drive. There's a current break in the median. When the PUD was written, it did so restricting drives if a second lane was never added. That second lane was added, and so in that limits of no access of 403 feet is where we're seeking that drive for the ability for drivers to turn left out of the development. We think that this is a paramount project to the Adventure District and to Northeast Oklahoma City. So while Plan OKC, there's a note in your staff report that talks about access management and the functional classification plan, I could list a number of points in the comprehensive plan that state that infill development, encouraging development of these properties, particularly in this part of town, is desirable. This project was supported by the Innovation District Executive Director, and I think she even showed up the last time we were here for this project. So I'm going to turn it over to Caleb Morgan just to talk some facts about circulation and that drive, and then we'll close up and ask for your approval.
Good afternoon, Caleb Morgan, Johnson Associates, 1 East Sheridan. As Mark mentioned, the driveways are crucial for this development, and they provide circulation for the site and also reduce some of the traffic that would occur on Martin Luther King and some of the conflicts there. The driveway in question that the staff had some comments about is across from the on-ramp to the interstate there to the north. And the driveway will have a left turn out, but the conflicts won't be with anything except for the through lanes coming from the west and the left turn lane turning onto the interstate. So there's not any access coming off the interstate, so this is actually better than a lot of driveways that are conflicting with other driveways across a medium from them. There is only 6,400 cars on 63rd Street currently measured by ODOT, and the on-ramp only has 860 cars. This is relatively few cars for any kind of access, and there is good sight lines in each direction, east and west, more than the allowed requirement for by Oklahoma City. We don't see an issue with this. I know staff had some concerns, but this would be no different than a driveway access on any median boulevarded street in Oklahoma City, expressway or anywhere else. It actually has less conflicts due to the on-ramp across the street only being an entrance to the interstate and not an exit. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Anything from the board?
So I just want to touch on what Caleb said. This is not Northwest Expressway. It's not Memorial Road and the Kirkpatrick Turnpike. This is essentially a 2 to 3 lane street that carries significantly less traffic than any of those. So while we understand what staff's concerns would be, we think the actual facts of this intersection make this a more than suitable location. And at the end of the day, our firm is who's signing the plans and are ultimately responsible for the design of this driveway. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Anyone sign up to speak?
Nobody signed up on this one. Does someone want to address the board on this application? Okay, none?
And I'll just say I'm in agreement with the applicant on this. I drive this often. It's my path to work. I'm in agreement. It would work.
My only concern is, you're building based off of current usage. is there a plan in the event or when that time comes that you have increased traffic? And I think that that's my only concern is what is the plan going forward?
I think it's important to have the additional driveways for the future build too, because what happens on these sports facilities is when they change from, say you have a 9:30 start time and the next group's at 10:30.
Right.
The 9:30s are still there, the 10:30s are trying to get in, then they're trying to leave. So you need additional ways in and out of facilities like this so that they can not queue all the way back into the deal. This road is not highly traveled at all. It was closed for the last 3 years and no one knew it.
Right.
They just opened it back up.
To your point in thinking through the future, the way we've spaced the drives out lends itself toward that. Without this drive, a more dangerous scenario is going to happen, which is they will leave our furthest west drive, which is permitted. They will then exit right, and they will be making U-turns around the median and whipping back around, which is more likely to back up that intersection where our furthest east drive is. So we think this is actually a safer scenario than people either trying to make U-turns around the median into the on-ramp. Okay. That's far more dangerous.
Right. I think from staff's point of view, it goes against the NTSB probably because of the median, because of the access to the highway and the location it is to the intersection. But it is very limitedly traveled.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to make sure that that's been thought out as far as increased and whatnot. So.
Anything else from the board? Ready for a motion?
Motion to approve case number 16009 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the requested variance.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you.
Item number 7, case number 16036 is an application by John and Samantha Layden to allow home sharing located at 8600 South Brookline Place.
Applicant here? Layden's? Let's just roll up to the end.
Item number 8, case number 16014 is an application by Anna Cheslick on behalf of Paseo 12 LLC to allow home sharing located at 2801 North Walker Avenue, unit number 3.
Okay, is the applicant here on this one? Anna Cheslick?
She submitted her new proposal because she was here last month.
Board, this is the case where they had to have at least one parking space, and they returned with a one space guaranteed.
Okay.
We're going to push it to the end.
Yeah, let's wait just in case.
Item number 9, case number 15963 is an application by William Burleson on behalf of Kelly Fasterling to allow home sharing 10320 Lightning Creek Drive.
Good afternoon. William Burleson, 3000 East Britain, seeking a special exception for home sharing on 10320 Lightning Creek Drive. I know we discussed this last time. I don't have any documents to give you, but I do have new information. While most of our bookings have been midterm, and that's what we strive to do, there has been some short-term bookings mixed in. So in that case, we have been non-compliant. That was not our intention. I'm sorry that fell through the cracks, but I still am wanting to seek that special exception so we can be compliant with rules and regulations.
And nobody's on, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I got one signed up. Donna Andrews?
My name is Donna Andrews. I live at 10316 Lightning Creek Drive, which is the house just south of this house. I noticed on their deal they're showing parking for 5 cars. Well, the people they're renting to do not use the driveway. They use it for other means, as in working on their construction projects. They keep all hours of the night. The traffic that they generate disrupts the neighborhood. We have a child's park across the street where the kids play. They show no consideration for the neighborhood. They have no consideration for the neighbors. They block our mailbox. They block our driveway. They park on both sides of the street. They deter the traffic going up and down the street. And this is one street that it just goes through. We don't have much parking. Their parking shows 5 parking places. Well, I don't really believe that they can park 5 cars in there. They'd have to park 2 in the garage. The renters have refused to park any in the garage. They've had as many as 6 and 7 cars there for the renters that had rented there in the past. My understanding is that the short-term rental, there's supposed to be a certain time length. They advertise to rent it from 2 weeks or more. I have seen in the past where the people have not been there for 2 weeks. They haven't been there more than a week. They come to do a project and they're gone. We never know who's going to be there. We have a nice, quiet neighborhood, and we would like to keep it that way. We are working on getting our HOAs modified to exclude short-term rentals in our neighborhood, because we do not want this in our neighborhood. We want to protect our children from whoever may be coming to rent these properties.
Thanks. A question for me was just, and I think you did answer it, but I was going to check to see if you thought it was operating as a short-term lease right now.
Yes, sir.
And do you have any idea how long possibly this has been going on?
2 years, since they bought the property in '23.
Okay, thanks. And I want to also say that you've heard, you stood through the whole thing 2 weeks ago, so you do know that we do limit the parking, and we do our best to keep the on-street parking to a minimum. And so whatever short-term lease that does get approved, the parking is always a big issue.
Our HOA prohibits parking in the street to alleviate the congestion on the streets.
Okay,
So
thanks.
we have our HOA does have that in our bylaws, that cars cannot be parked in the street. And they are continually parked in the street, 3 and 4 deep, just depending on how many guys. You never know how many guys are going to be there, what they're working on. There was some there that were there for a week or 2. They were working on a Walmart. They were there in and out all hours of the night because they were working when Walmart was closed, and they were doing stuff. So I
appreciate everything you had to say, and so I think you'll find out that this board will take everything you had to say into consideration on this.
Thank you.
Hang on just a second. She was the only one signed up. Does anybody else want to address the board on this?
The gentleman that was here with me last time that wanted to address, he had a death in the family and was called away to California. So
Okay.
he could not be here.
Okay. Okay, go ahead and respond.
There was a recent flood that flooded a bedroom and bathroom. I don't know if that's the construction she's referring to, but there was probably a lot of people in and out. We have been renting the home for 2 years, like I've said, and it has been majority midterm, but there has been short-term rentals in there. And we understand, if there's regulations on parking through this, and we will make sure that's enforced. This is the first time I'm hearing about it, about parking in the street and having 6 cars in the driveway. We would be sure to correct that as soon as we hear about that and let the owners know, and that will all be in our rental description moving forward.
And just a question for you. In 2 weeks ago when you were here, I brought up, that same question to see if you were operating this without a special exception or licensing. And I said that I was going to research, and I did, and I researched. And today, I researched it again just to see. It's still up as a VRBO. It's rented for 2 days this weekend.
Yeah, I believe it's 30 days. Like, they changed it to 30 days.
I could have got it Monday, Tuesday. So I'm just saying what's showing online right now.
Can you look at it right now?
I mean, I just did it about an hour ago.
Okay. I asked them to change it.
An
to
hour
make sure.
ago?
It was this morning, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just for your information, what I
It is,
looked at.
yeah, it's 30-day across the board now. Nothing is being allowed.
For me personally, I think that I've been pretty consistent in really wanting to look at the management aspect of it. As to this property specifically, I don't have the confidence to vote yes to allow the special exception because it has been operating for at least a year in that instance. And for me personally, doesn't mean that you can't ever get one. I just make it equal to the time that you've been operating as a short-term rental. And from what I was able to see, you may be going back over a year. I'm willing to say, like, hey, if you want to come back again in a year and reapply for your special exception, I could get on board at that point. But for me currently to approve this, I am not in favor of it.
I echo the same thoughts. I did a search on it afterwards and found that you could rent it for less than the 30-day time period before. I know that was a question at the last meeting, and so I'm in agreement.
Could there be a fine or penalty paid to right those wrongs?
I don't think we have that authority.
No. I think for us in our consistency wise, I mean, the penalty is that we would deny the application.
And allow you to come back in a year.
Okay. Are you open to a shorter time period trial where I can come back, document how it's been used? You can see if there's any compliance issues, any complaints, and then reconsider it.
I'm
say 3 or 6 months.
I'm going to stick with what I've been doing up to this point. So I am a no.
Okay.
Anything else from the board?
The special exception is a privilege, it's not a right. And as far as complaints have been concerned, we've had this lady, the neighbor who's been here, she sat through an extremely long hearing the last time along with another neighbor. And you yourself have admitted that it's been used as a short-term rental. So I'm with my colleagues on that.
So I can come back in a year, running it as a midterm for a year.
Essentially.
Good.
Yep. Ready for a motion?
I'm just really
Oh,
quick,
wait a
sorry, as staff, with the caveat that in order to apply, you'd have to meet all the conditions for approval at that time, meaning that there's a limit of how many special exceptions can be on one block, so their decision does not override that. Okay.
Ready for a motion?
All right, I'm going to make a motion to deny case number 15963 for a period of 1 year from August 21st, 2025.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny. Cast your votes. All right, denied.
Thank you.
Item number 10, case number 16035 is an application by Peter Levinson of LRE International LLC to allow home sharing at 3224 Northwest 47th Street.
Ma'am, we already voted on this one.
I know, I just need to ask a question about our HOA. If we have gotten our...
Okay, use the mic, call this citizens to be heard, because we're finished.
You'll answer me?
Yeah. All right, now your turn.
Hello, I'm Peter Levinson, representing Ellery International. I am an owner in that company. We have a property that we're hoping to get a special assessment for to use as a short-term rental.
Nobody signed up on this one. Does anyone want to address the board on this application?
After that last one, I kind of wish somebody would, just so I know what's going on. Like, I don't want to make anybody upset. So this particular property, we did a full remodel on it. I work in real estate. I'm a real estate broker, do property management as well, and it's close to the hospital. And so several people told me I should do this to accommodate families staying at the hospital because it's a very nice remodeled home.
Questions or comments from the board?
Just a couple of comments on it. It's a pretty small house. It has 5 bedrooms.
It's larger than it looks. It goes back pretty far. So it's a pretty deep home.
But it does
has-
have 5 bedrooms?
Yes.
5 bedrooms?
Yes. We're probably going to market it only as 4. I don't really like the 5th bedroom utilizing it, more of an office space for people staying there. But yeah, it's 5 bedrooms and 3 full bathrooms. The garage is accessible for car parking plus 2 cars in the drive. And if
And the bedrooms would obviously go to the maximum number of guests. So to be able
correct,
to
but
sleep.
we're not putting double beds. So I think 1 bedroom we had planned to put 2 beds in case someone has kids, but there are 3 master bedrooms in the house. We didn't add on, it was just how the property was when we purchased it.
Okay, and as far as the maximum number of vehicles, I think the driveway can handle 2 vehicles.
2 in the drive, 1 in the garage if need be.
Okay.
And I'm open to reduce that if the board would like us to market it for less occupants.
For me, I'd like to see it at 8.
At 8?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that.
Quiet hours as in the application, which would be 9 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Yes.
And the term would be for 1 year. It's the first time this comes through, it's always a 1-year term.
Okay, and then come back in 1 year to make sure I'm doing everything
Yes.
correctly?
Kind of watch your
Be timely.
days on getting your application filed, because it's a little while before you get a hearing, so don't let
So
some
start
of
the
them
application process at least 2 months prior to.
Yeah.
Okay, just like I did, yes.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Did you say 3 cars?
Yeah, 3 cars, no on-street parking.
And reduce to 8. Yep.
How large is the home? How many square feet?
I do apologize, I don't have that information directly in front of me at the time. Off the top of my head, I want to say it's close to 1,800 square feet, if not a little bit larger. It's got 2 living room spaces, dining room, inside laundry.
It's a lot for 1,800 square feet, though.
Might be a little bit larger than that. I apologize. Like I said, I'm a broker. We have like 180 properties, so I should have brought that information with me. I should be able to.
Nobody else signed up to speak. Is anybody here to address the board on this application? Okay.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve case number 16035 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the requested special exceptions with the following modifications. This shall be for a term of 1 year. Maximum number of guests shall be 8. Maximum number of cars shall be 3. No on-street parking. And I guess that's about it. Did I miss something?
You say 1 year?
1 year?
1 year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 11, case number 16032 is an application by Libby Ross on behalf of Bradley D. Lone Orr to allow home sharing, 2049 Mattern Drive.
Good afternoon. My name is Misty Stowe. I'm here in lieu of Libby Ross to represent Dylan Orr at 2049 Mattern Drive. Ready to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Nobody signed up on this one. Does anyone want to address the board on this application? Okay. Questions, comments from the board?
Just to go over the application again, it's a maximum of 4 guests.
Yes.
I'd like the quiet hours to be from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., if
Okay.
that's okay with you. And for me, a lot of that reason is just, well, it's because it was in the application, that's why. I was like, okay, trying to remember. Yeah. Number of cars, 3, and to no on-street parking,
Correct.
and then a term of 1 year.
Correct.
Okay.
Anything else from the board? Ready for a motion?
Motion to approve. Motion to approve case number 16032 for the purpose that it meets statutory requirements for the requested special exception, with the modification that this will be for a term of 1 year, a 3-car maximum, and no on-street parking during quiet hours.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your vote. You're approved.
Thank you.
Item number 12, case number 16030 is an application by Libby Ross on behalf of Bradley Dillon Orr to allow home sharing at 2064 Northwest 48th Street.
Hello again. Misty Stowe here in lieu of Libby Ross for Dillon at 2064 Northwest 48th Street.
Okay. There's no one signed up on this one. Does anyone want to address the board on this application?
How many bathrooms does this home have?
I'm sorry. I
Do you
didn't-
know how many
bathrooms?
baths?
How many bathrooms? It's a 4-bed, 4-bath.
Okay.
4. Okay, did you know that there was a, oh, I thought there was a violation. Is there not a violation on this?
Yeah, there was, but it was
Part of it.
before this owner purchased, is what it says.
I see.
So, I know there's a lot of parking.
Yes.
I'm going to say a maximum of 5 cars
Okay.
with no on-street parking.
Perfect.
Quiet hours from 8 to 8, which is in the application. And a maximum number of guests at 8.
Yes.
The application. For a term of 1 year.
Yes.
Anything else? Ready for a motion?
Motion to approve case number 16030 for the purpose that it meets statutory requirements for the special exception. With the following modifications, this shall be for a term of 1 year. Maximum number of vehicles shall be 5, and no on-street parking during quiet hours.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Cast your votes. And you're approved.
Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.
Item number 13, case number 16034 is an application by Mindy Tran on behalf of TMT Rentals LLC to allow home sharing, 8209 Crestline Court.
Good afternoon. My name is Mindy. This is my husband.
Would you pull the microphone down just a little bit so we can hear you? There you go. Thank you.
My name is Mindy Tran, and this is my husband.
Yeah, we're here to for the request of this short-term rental on the address of the 8209 Crestline Court in Oklahoma City.
Nobody signed it. Well, wait a minute. We got more. None on this. Nobody signed up to speak on this application. Does anyone want to address the board on this one? Okay, anything from the board?
No, we'll just go over the application a little bit. It's a 3-bedroom. How many baths?
2.
3-bedroom, 2-bath home. You're looking for a maximum of, says 6 to 7.
Yes, 6.
6 would be good, okay. Quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Yes,
Maximum of 2 vehicles and no on-street parking.
yes.
Term a year, 1 year. A 1-year term.
Yes, yeah.
I'm okay.
Yep.
Ready for a motion?
All right, motion to approve case number 16034 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the special exceptions with the following modifications. Maximum number of guests shall be 6. Quiet hours shall be from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. Maximum number of vehicles at 2. No on-street parking during quiet hours and for a term of 1 year.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. You're approved.
Thank you.
Item number 14 is case number 16031, is an application by Tempera, Missouri, and Joshua Acosta to allow home sharing located at 4813 Morris Lane.
Hello. My name is Tempera Acosta. We are currently wanting to seek a special exemption for home sharing at our home at 4813 Morris Lane.
Nobody signed up on this one. Is there anyone that wants to address the board on this application?
Just a few things on your application to go over. The maximum number of guests, it's a 4-bedroom, you can sleep 8 people. So maximum number of guests would be 8. I wanted to change your quiet hours from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Okay.
And let's just tell you the reason why. There's a swimming pool in the backyard, and protection of your neighbors is the reason why I wanted to do that. You can put 5 cars in your driveway. That's just 5 cars and with no on-street parking and for the term of 1 year.
Okay, that sounds good.
How many bathrooms are in the home?
It's 2.1.
2.1.
So we have the half downstairs and then 2 upstairs.
Anything else? We ready for a motion?
All right. Motion to approve case number 16031 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the requested special exception with the following modifications. This shall be for a term of 1 year. Quiet hours shall be from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. Maximum number of vehicles at 5 and no on-street parking during quiet hours.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Thank you.
Cast your votes. You're approved.
Item number 15 is case number 16027, an application by Jennifer Gonzalez on behalf of Haven Property Investments LLC to allow home sharing at 2337 Northwest 37th Street.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Gonzalez. I'm representing Haven Property Investments. So we're seeking a special exception for 2337 Northwest 37th Street. It's a 3-bed, 3-bath with a long, extensive driveway. We'd have a couple rules, one of them being quiet hours between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. And no parking, no street parking, of course. Yeah, that's what we're looking for. Here for answer any questions if you guys have them.
The only one signed up on this one is Jennifer.
I'm sorry, sir?
Said you're the only one who signed up to speak
Oh,
on this
against
one.
myself, perfect. Yeah, that would be something I would do.
As long as you're not protesting.
Yeah, no, I'm not protesting, so, yeah.
I made the assumption, but thought I'd ask. Does anyone want to address the board on this application?
So just to go over the application, the maximum number of guests would be 6.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make the quiet hours 9 p.m. to 8 a.m.
Perfect. Can do that.
Maximum number of vehicles would be 2, which you state in the application, and no on-street parking for a term of 1 year.
Okay. All right.
How many full bathrooms do you have?
3.
3?
Yes.
So it's a 3-3?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Anything else? Ready for a motion?
Motion to approve case number 16027 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the special exceptions with the following modifications. This shall be for a term of 1 year. Quiet hours shall be from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. No on-street parking during quiet hours and a 2-car maximum.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Cast your votes.
Awesome.
You're
Thank
approved.
you. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask for you to call up the 2 that were missing before we do 16, if that would be okay.
Okay. That would be my preference. I got number 7 and number 8. And call those again.
So we have case number 16036, an application by John and Samantha Layden to allow home sharing at 8600 South Brookline Place.
Layden's?
They were a renewal, a timely renewal.
I'm flexible. We can either vote on it or
Just
continue
continue
it
it.
for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Is that the preference? Continue?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that a motion?
I can. Okay, motion to continue case number 16036 to the September, is it 4th? Meeting? Yes, all right.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue. Cast your votes.
And then we had item number 8, case number 16014, an application by Anna Cheslick on behalf of Paseo 12 LLC to allow home sharing at 2801 North Walker Avenue, unit number 3.
Okay. Anna here? Continue it?
We can, or this is the one that they just had to add the additional
Oh,
parking
okay, that's right.
for a single apartment.
And they did provide that.
Forget what all the other changes we made, though.
I don't think we made anything but maybe the 4 hours.
It's 1, 2, okay. I can make a motion based off of what we normally do. Then, motion to approve case number 16014 for the purpose that it meets the statutory requirements for the requested special exceptions. With the modification that quiet hours shall be adjusted from 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. and for a term of 1 year.
3, actually. It's
Was it a renewal?
Yeah.
Timely renewal.
Timely renewal, okay, for a
Was a
term.
renewal.
Okay. Thank you for the reminder. For a term of 3 years, then.
And I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. Cast your votes. Okay, that one's approved.
Okay, so we're to item number 16, case number 16039. It is an appeal by Box Law Group on behalf of CFF Recycling from the decision of a city official regarding the interpretation that a special permit is required for the approval of their building permit located at 100 North Bath Avenue.
Okay, David, before you start,
Yes, sir.
my understanding is this is an appeal. Yes or no, did the city get it right? So we're not here to discuss zoning or other parking issues, variance. It is an appeal from a denial of a permit. Is that pretty close? That's correct. Okay, your turn.
Yes, David Box, 525 Northwest 11th Street. These appeals from staff used to be a pretty rare occurrence. I think the last perhaps 4 or 5 Board of Adjustments I've been to, there have been this type of appeal in front of you. This one is very unique. You're going to hear from not only myself, but Mark Zitzow with Johnson Associates, who was involved in the permitting process. Depending on the questions that get raised, Billy Baker is here as well, who is with Dersborg. So what is that issue is my client's desire to replace with an in-kind replacement a shear on the property. Now you will hear concerns by, we believe, some residents as it relates to operational impacts of the property. All of those impacts that you'll hear about reside within the shredder that's on the property. And it's an important distinction because there is both a shredder and a shear. The shredder is where cars and refrigerators and large pieces of equipment get placed. The explosions that we believe you'll hear about, if they occur solely within the shredder. That shredder that's on site is operational today, is not in need of a new permit. It has nothing to do with this case whatsoever. The result of this case has nothing to do with the shredder. It is legally non-conforming. We don't seek to touch it. On the other hand, the shear that has been operating on this property for decades and decades and decades has gone out. What is on there is an old diesel-powered shear. The distinction between the shear and the shredder, if you think of the Cox Center, or when I was a kid, the Myriad, is being demolished right now to make way for a new arena. What will be produced from that will need to go to a facility, and it happens to be going to this facility, is a shear. Thinner pieces of metal, like structural I-beams, go through a shear, not a shredder. This shear went out. My client sought to replace it in kind. The outdated diesel-powered shear that was there is no longer made. So what was purchased is what is available as an in-kind replacement, and that is now a fully electric shear. The shear does not produce noise. The shredder produces noise. So what's important here is what you're here to decide, and that is whether or not the city's decision that my client somehow has lost their rights as a non-conforming use was proper. Non-conforming uses are very important. What it represents is a property right. Here, my client has a piece of property that is zoned I3. It's important to note that everything around it is zoned I3. Why that's important is if you, I'm so sorry, Sarah, if you could go back to, well, that works. All of this around the subject property has been I3 for some time. These uses have been here for some time. And why it's important is in a city the size of ours that is constantly undergoing change, again, the arena, you have to have a place to take this type of material. Why this is so well suited is because not only is it I3, and I3 is almost impossible to find within the city, but it's served by rail. The fact that it's served by rail allows for efficient use. That's why this operation has been in place for so many decades. Now, the city has made attempts to intimate that they would like to buy this site. The city somehow now doesn't like that this site sits on Reno. We believe that the city, their desire to acquire this site, is the reason why they have denied this permit in an attempt to drive down the value to ultimately try to acquire this site. Luckily, the legally non-conforming ordinances and statutes, we believe, protect us. In fact, the ordinance specifically allows for modernization. In the ordinance, it says, and I quote, 59-15200.2 sub E, improvements that do not increase the size or intensity of the use shall be permitted. The site as a whole is where the use is occurring. The specific location of the shear is not the use. It is the site. Operators who have legally non-conforming status, whether it was a shear or any other non-conforming use, have to be able to modernize. We actually think that this will be a significant benefit to the city, the community, to go from a diesel generator, diesel-powered machine to a fully electric machine, we believe to be an absolute win for everyone here. So at this point, what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn over to Mark Zitzel, because I think it's important you hear from him what his conversations with the city were like that ultimately led us here.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mark Zitzel, Johnson & Associates, 1 East Sheridan Avenue. So I've been involved with this company for probably 5 years now on various permits. I think it's helpful to start. The city has a history of approving improvements on this site. Ultimately, this permit has been denied. But in recent years, approval of what is Bath Avenue was fully improved to be a hard surface paved street. It was widened and brought all the way into the facility. And then in more recent years, this board actually granted a variance for a sound barrier along the whole north side. So there's been a history of the city granting these permits. And so it was a bit of a surprise that this one now is deemed an expansion when widening, improving a road, adding a sound barrier, none of those caused any concern or issue from the staff on the continued use of the property. On this one, I got involved after there was initial concern in that when the permit was initially filed, there was an error on the plans that I think raised some alarms in what they were calling the equipment. That led to a meeting. That got worked out. We left that meeting with what we thought was an understanding of a path forward. It then made it back to us that staff was going to, again, determine that the non-conforming use would not be permitted based on the equipment that was being sought. So we had another essentially emergency meeting that occurred the next day. And these meetings were 1 and 2 hours long. In that meeting, there was also staff in the room from the plan review side that disagreed and felt this was an in-kind replacement. Ultimately, the staff decided to go a different direction, but there was also different interpretation among city staff in the room. When we left that meeting, what the request was that I had made that we believed was the path forward was if there are components of the equipment that were of concern, that were tipping the scale into it being an expansion and not just an in-kind replacement, can you tell us what those are? And we would ask the company and ultimately the manufacturer, could components be removed so that this is more similar to what's on site today? We were told staff would look into that and follow up and let us know that the components of the equipment that were most concerning. Ultimately, the next email we got was them noting that the permit would just be denied and that there were no changes that could be made, leaving us with this process of having to file an appeal without a path forward. So with that, I'll turn it back over to David, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mark. So I think it's important we focus on what it means to be legally non-conforming. What that means is that my client started their use on this property before the time in which the city required a special permit. That's important because what that means is my client's rights predate the city's requirements to seek a special permit. And vested within that is the ability to modernize. The ordinance, as it relates to non-conforming uses, specifically allows for the modernization. We don't view this as anything other than the modernization. The same amount of scrap will go through that shear. It just, instead of now going through an outdated, inefficient, diesel-powered machine, it'll go through an efficient, fully electric machine. One thing of note, that years ago, when there were explosions happening, the city and my client, before I was involved, worked towards a wall along the northern piece of the property. That wall was at a cost of about $1.5 million. It's a bit telling that the city at that time was fully compliant with my client spending the money to build that wall and didn't make any mention of this. But here we are trying to modernize our machines on site, and now the city's saying, oh, nope, you got to go get a special permit. We would ask that you reject the city's interpretation, declaring this swap out of machines as conforming to our rights possessed as a legally non-conforming use. We have all the people here necessary to answer any questions you might have, and we would ask for your approval.
Okay. Questions or comments from the board? I've got a lot of folks signed up for this one.
Let's hear it.
Well, before we do that, is there anybody from staff that's going to speak on this? Can we start there?
Whoever wants to go first. Okay.
Good afternoon, Jeff Butler, Planning Director for the city. Have a few introductory comments, and if it's okay with the board, we'd like to have our legal department address a few points as well. So just by way of introduction, explanation, zoning ordinances always have regulations related to non-conforming uses. And the reason that they do that is because at some point in time, the city council determined that certain aspects of sites or certain uses were no longer appropriate in certain areas or on certain sites. And so the goal of the ordinance where there's a non-conforming situation is for that use to eventually go away. And various cities have different ways of dealing with that. Our regulations are, I would say, fairly standard. And the zoning ordinances typically try and balance the impact of that decision that it's now non-conforming, the impact of the property owner on the desire, the policy reason, whatever there might be for that use to cease to exist at some point. The desire is not to place an undue burden on the property owner, but at some point to have that use go away eventually. This has been a non-conforming use for many, many years, and a special permit has been determined is required for the use of scrap operations. What I'd like to do is just kind of explain a little bit. If Sarah, if you can bring up the site plan, I'll kind of explain what's going on and why we think this is an expansion. Excuse me. Okay, yes. Yeah, that's good, thank you. So I'll start from the right side. Well, actually, I'll start from the left. So top left, it's a crane and a platform, which is new to the site. And then going down kind of the middle, you'll see that axis going through. To the left, Sarah, if you could designate that kind of the first conveyor belt. Yeah, a little bit to the left. So there's a conveyor belt there. And then in the center, if you go over to the right, that's the new piece of equipment. Roughly the same size, maybe a little bit larger as the existing piece, which is actually several feet further over on the site. So that's another aspect. The code says you're not allowed to move something like this in the non-conforming language. So then, as you progress further to the right, you'll see there's a very large, it exceeds 20 feet in height, the conveyor belt, which rotates along and deposits the scrap metal in piles. So that would be new as well as the concrete wall there. And then if you go down to the south, there's two new structures. There's a hydraulic building immediately to the, if you can kind of locate that, Sarah. The hydraulic building a little bit, yeah, there you go. So there's a new hydraulic building, and there's a new electrical transformer building surrounded by platforms. So you can see that the site, the equipment is much larger than what exists currently. Height-wise, the buildings are about 16 feet or so, 16 to 20 feet. And then, of course, the conveyor belt exceeds that. So that's the kind of the physical structure of what we're looking at. So in addition to the movement, it's also expanding the use. The literature that comes from the company that produces this says that it's able to, they mentioned about 25% increase in capacity, the output of the machine. So there's certainly an increase in intensity there and what the machine can do. So for those reasons, my decision email is attached in the, sorry, pulling my notes here. My decision email is attached. And it indicates that we consider this to be an expansion, both of size, scale, and intensity, which intensity in my mind, in this case, is an expansion of the use, the ability to do that. So I think with that, just an explanation, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to legal for any further points they'd like to make before we proceed.
Okay.
Good afternoon, board members. I'm Laura McDevitt, and I'm a deputy municipal councilor for the city. So I think that Mr. Butler has already hit on some of the major points and the issues of why this permit application was denied. But we want to take the opportunity to reiterate that the whole purpose of the non-conforming provisions in the code is to not encourage these uses to continue indefinitely, and that eventually they're going to be phased out. So I would like to also direct you to 1500.2. That is the non-conforming uses of buildings. I think the next page, if you wouldn't mind, Sarah. And so this isn't necessarily a building itself. It's a structure and it's a use that's existing across the entire, well, this part of the site. I think that Mr. Box also made some representations that this was going to be the same amount of scrap that is being processed. But right now, we don't have any information related to what scrap is being produced on a daily basis to even be able to compare that to what the future output might be. And as Mr. Butler mentioned, there are references in the informational packets from the company that produces this equipment that it increases efficiency. So there's not anything that would necessarily assure it is going to be more efficient. That in turn is going to be increasing the capacity and also increasing the intensity of the scrap operations use. Also, I think there were some arguments made about a shredder versus the shear. That's a distinction without a real concrete difference because those pieces of equipment are involved in the same use unit that's at issue here. They're both 598350.13, which is the scrap operations. So whether it's the shredder or the shear really doesn't matter. Those are both part of the problem, and we're not looking to enable the intensity of the use. Also, Sarah, if you wouldn't mind flipping to, I think it was page C 4.0 of the permit application. It had some shaded areas. Yes, so it's a little difficult to see here, but I would like to point out that the shaded area is what is proposing to be now paved. And then there's also going to be a detention pond that is shown in the upper right-hand corner. So there's a lot of site disturbance that is happening here. This is not just a simple swap out of one piece of equipment for another, but instead I think there's another page that also shows what is going to, they're going to have to be shifting the scrap piles around as this construction's taking place. So this is really a major undertaking, and the representation that this is a simple swap out and is not really going to be impacting the intensity of the nonconforming use is inaccurate. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions or comments? Anybody else from the city needs to address this? Susan? Nope. Okay. David, do you want to respond or do you want to listen to the protest first? Okay, Mark. Do you want to address?
Oh, sure.
Before I hear the protesters.
Yeah. So real quick, I mean, we would disagree that moving the specific piece of equipment modifies the use. The use is the site itself. The scrap isn't limited to one area on the site. The scrap can go anywhere on the site. The city's never made any issue with that until today. The reason that the site was disturbed, anytime you get a building permit, you're required to do a stormwater permit, and that stormwater permit required us to do things on site. That was at the direction of the city to comply with our stormwater requirements. So this distinction that because the machine is more efficient, it somehow equals greater capacity, and therefore that's the leap that the city attorney's office wants you to take to an increase in the intensity is a fallacy. There are no limitations right now on the hours that my client could run the diesel-powered machine. We could run it 24/7. What this electric machine will allow us to do is to operate more efficiently and therefore fewer hours. So that's a complete fallacy that this somehow increases capacity. Capacity is a derivative of how efficient can the machine be. And right now, we could operate 24/7. This simply allows us to work less hours, which perhaps is a decrease in the intensity on the site. So that would be my response to the city matters, and I'd like to reserve the ability to respond at the end if there are additional matters.
Okay. These aren't in any particular order, so I'm just going to take the one on top. Looks like Denretta Davis? Denuvetta, sorry.
Good afternoon. My name is Denevetta Davis, 721 North Kellum. So I am here as president of the JFK Neighborhood Association. boundaries Northeast 4th, Northeast 8th, Martin Luther King to Lincoln, and also president of the Northeast Oklahoma City Neighborhood Coalition, a collaboration of presidents and team leaders representing 18 neighborhoods in Northeast Oklahoma City. And we have neighbors from the association represented today and also presidents from various neighborhoods. And so I'm here today. I know that the team here may not be interested in what we have to say about how this has impacted our neighborhood, but Dursburg has, and Standard Iron and Metal, have both impacted our neighborhood, whether it's the shredder or the other equipment or what. But we've been experiencing explosions coming from the recycling plants when gasoline is left in the tank and they put them through the shredder. This has been going on for decades. We've been tracking it, we've been logging it, and it has really impacted our neighborhood. We don't know when it's going to happen, it just happens. Sometimes there are just unbelievable loud things are falling off the walls. Neighbors have reported cracks in their walls and various things. And it's really been detrimental to our neighborhood. And I know maybe this may not be what they wanted to hear, but we haven't appeared before the Board of Adjustments before to share our story. So I wanted to make sure that you were aware of this as you discuss and make the decision today about this. But they have not been a good neighbor, but they did put up a wall. And we were thinking maybe it might help. It did for a short time. It did decrease the number, but those numbers have continued. And I have here, just kind of going back to 2023, we had 23 explosions, 2 industrial fires. They're not the only companies that create problems for us. We also have some air quality issues. So we have ongoing air quality issues, that's smoke, dust, sulfur, odors, occasional natural gas odors, humming noise, fog over our neighborhood. In 2024, we had 34 explosions, 2 industrial fires, numerous complaints to DEQ, and what I just mentioned about the smoke, dust, etc. And this year, we've already had 15 explosions and 6 complaints to DEQ. So we just wanted to make sure that you are aware of this, that we want to be good neighbors, and we expect those around us to be good neighbors as well. We've been told that they can't stop these explosions, that we would just have to live with it, but it's very difficult for us to do that. So we hope that you will consider what I've said as you deliberate on this today. Thank you.
Okay. Looks like Walter Jacks.
I have one copy for each board member. Good evening, good afternoon. My name is Walter Jacks, 4832 Kelsch Drive. I became involved with the JFK neighborhood 15 years ago as an employee of the State Health Department. And I drove through that neighborhood on my way to work every day for about 15 years before getting involved with them. And after a few years, I became very involved with them, and I wanted to share with you some of my observations. The first several pages of this handout are a production of a colleague of mine at the Oklahoma City County Health Department. And if you look at the dark blue area toward the bottom left of the front page, what this is showing is the very worst of health statistics in Oklahoma City. And actually in Oklahoma County, it's by zip code. If you look at the following page, and you'll see that the 73117 zip code is right in the middle of that, right at the bend in the L by the I-35 shield. Okay, the second page is a long convoluted bar chart, and it lists by zip code health outcomes by various indicators. So what we're showing here is that Oklahoma County, being really the lead indicator in Oklahoma as a state, and Oklahoma being basically one of the worst health outcome states in the country. In fact, in some metrics, we are 51st behind even not only all the other states, but Puerto Rico as well. Okay, and at the very bottom, you'll note on the legend on the far right is the 73117 zip code, which is where the JFK neighborhood is, between, as Denavetta said, 4th and 8th Streets from Lincoln to MLK. There are a couple of, this handout was originally designed to talk about some blast, and we're not going to really talk about the blast much today, but I want to draw your attention to the last page. In about 2000 to 2012, I shot this photo off of the rooftop of the State Health Department at 10th and Stonewall, looking toward the southeast. And the Derishberg, I don't know how you pronounce it, site is in the background here. Okay, this is the human view of the juxtaposition of that industrial zoning versus the R1. Okay, this is heavy industry right next to where people live, where children go to school. Okay. Mr. Box said a few minutes ago that shear is being replaced, and it's independent of the shredder, which generates the booms. Okay. But he said the shear is being replaced because it's worn out after, in his words, decades and decades and decades of use. Now, if this company is going to invest money to put a new shear in place, I would imagine they are going to expect further decades and decades and decades of use, meaning decades and decades and decades of continued industrial pollution coming out over this neighborhood constantly. That's an abomination, okay? And I find it unbelievable that the introduction of this new piece of machinery is in any way going to result in a diminution of capacity. That's crazy. And I'm sure that the owner of the place is selling it up right now as we're going to be able to have a lot more capacity. I think it's just plain wrong that Oklahoma City is not looking at not only not upgrading this, but not drawing down the industrialization right next to a residential neighborhood and ultimately relocating it to a place where it's not going to have this human impact. Thank you very much.
Laura Stone.
Hello, my name is Laura Stone. Can you hear me? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is that better? Okay. I am a resident of Lincoln Terrace. I'm at 612 Northeast 14th Street. We're about 1.5 miles north of there. I'm president of the Lincoln Terrace Neighborhood Association. I'm secretary of the Northeast OKC Neighborhood Coalition and a bunch of other neighborhood-related things. The concerns that you'll hear and that you've already heard, I don't have any novel concerns because the concerns I have are shared with my fellow residents and those in the city. But I will say that as a resident that's a little further apart from this particular facility, I will still say that I urge this board to hear those concerns both from the city and the residents and some of the other people who are behind me, because an increase in efficiency inherently will increase productivity. It's a business. That's the point, is to increase efficiency so you can do more and bigger. And I feel that it's disingenuous to say that this increase in efficiency is going to do anything, as the last speaker said, but increase productivity. And that increased productivity is, again, inherently going to bring the problems from the other existing equipment that isn't being replaced, which causes the environmental and the quality of life concerns.
Okay, thank you. Elaine Nelson Lewis.
Good afternoon. My name is Elaine Nelson Lewis. I live at 608 North Kellam Avenue. I oppose the request for a special permit because of the history of problems with the recycling plant, the air quality, and the explosions that have already occurred in the JFK neighborhood continually haunt the residents there. Both my 90-year-old mother and I live in the neighborhood. I live off of 6th and Kellum. My mom lives off of 4th and Bath. And these explosions have not only frightened the heck out of us, they have caused significant damage to both of our homes. Both of our homes are less than 15 years old. Our family, like many others in the community, have been directly impacted by the explosions. Granting this permit would not only add to the hardships we are already facing, and our neighborhood deserves protection from further harm. Mr. Box spoke as if the explosions were no longer occurring, which is not the case. JFK residents are still logging the explosions, and they are continuing to happen in our neighborhood. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Nikki Nice, Senator.
Good afternoon. I wanted to give my thoughts on the potential for the appeal to be undone. I ask that and urge that you keep this appeal in place. And I want to preface this by my time as a council member, hoping to do the work with the city, trying to ensure that we kept our community safe. And I can tell you firsthand that it was a hard, and still is, as you have heard, a hard battle pertaining to the neighborhood in which they are a part of. While yes, their zoning right now is currently I3, and we understand the use that they can have, to my understanding, this shearer that they are requesting will allow them, will need a larger footprint for them to produce this shearer to work. And I just want to make some comments from some of the things that I heard in the beginning as far as the statements that were made. And I want to say there was no mention made of a shearer when the request for a sound barrier wall was made from the residents in the community. We could have nipped this all in the bud years ago if they knew that was indeed the problem, that we needed to replace all of the equipment. We could have done that then. So it was not the onus of the city. We were trying to do the work to ensure that our community was taken care of by this barrier wall. We had heard that it had happened and a barrier wall had been presented in a different state with a community that was very similar to where this particular recycling plant resides. So we wanted to ensure that if there are ways that we can make sure it's less harmful, we want to do that. So I question why a shearer wasn't brought up years ago instead of them saying yes to bringing up a wall. I also want to say that I also heard that they can run this machine 24/7. They cannot, because the city requires that they have a time frame to be in operation and a time frame that they have to stop that operation. So I think it's very unfortunate that they believe they can run their machines 24/7, because we know for sure that there are some guidelines in place that disallow that to happen. And I think it's very important to go back to what the use is, the non-conforming use of what they are wanting to do, and as far as how the city defines it. If they want to continue to do this work, they will need to get a special permit. They were denied once upon a time for this, and which is why we are here today. But this is because we have seen what they have already produced for this community, and it has not been something that we all can agree has been positive towards the residents nor our city. So as a city, we are tasked to ensure the safety and welfare of our residents and to allow them to continue with this appeal process as far as to undo their appeal for this, I would say would put our community at risk for that health, safety, and welfare. So thank you for your time and thank you for listening to me. And again, I speak as a former council member that was here not long ago, and I was a part of the council at the time when we did work through trying to get that barrier wall and all of the conversations that had to happen. And it is very complicated while we're working through not just the city, but the county as well as the state layers that make it very difficult for us to continue to serve our residents as far as that health, safety, and welfare. But you all will have that decision today, so I appreciate you hearing my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll probably mispronounce this. Jeff Trevelode? Sorry.
Sorry, good afternoon. My name is Jeff Trevelyan, and I'm a resident at 511 North Von Schill Avenue, just blocks away from both Durenborg and Standard Iron. First, I would just like to, I won't go over some of the points that were already made by other speakers. I just want to highlight the fact that that the uses, the I3 zoning and the R1, have been cited expressly as incompatible in Chapter 59, Article 6 of the ordinances. And just like any city that changes over time, there was a long time where there were many vacant lots in the JFK neighborhood. My house that was built was one of the first on my block. There was a new house. There were like, 2 old houses on there. And as this expansion has happened, many of us did not realize that we were right next to a heavy industrial zoned area. And so just, this city has changed very much over the last 20 to 30 years. And we can't expect to have the same industrial operations in the heart of Oklahoma City. To excel and be a world-class city, we would need to make some changes. And what I would also wanted to say is, as far as being a good neighbor, I want to just let you know, as an eyewitness, a person that lives in this neighborhood and sees these things going on every day, this company, the applicant, is a neighbor that operates in bad faith. There is a ordinance that says they are not supposed to operate beyond certain hours. They do this routinely. Their counsel just in one breath stated that they didn't know whether or not explosions were actually occurring, and then later on says that they were occurring. But I'm here to tell you, myself, all my neighbors, we are not delusional. These explosions happen. They rock our homes, and for many years they denied that they were even happening. So if this application were to be approved, there would essentially be an increase in intensity. The increase in intensity is going to happen. We don't believe that this company is in the business. They're in the business of making money, right? So if this machine is going to be more efficient, they're going to increase their operations there. And denying this application would be a step in the direction of removing these industrial uses from the heart of Oklahoma City, just minutes from downtown. This area is stifling the expansion of other commercial uses in the area and the quality of life of our residents and our neighbors. And again, on the bad faith of this neighbor, I personally don't believe that the initial application was a mistake between a shredder and a shear or whatever that may be, that distinction may be. We don't know if they're going to have 2 of them operating there. We don't know any of these things, and the city doesn't have the capacity or they don't have the capacity to monitor this operation as it needs to be monitored to ensure that they are actually doing everything that they say that they're going to be doing. All the representations that have been made by them are suspect, and I would proffer to this body that more due diligence would need to be made to determine whether or not the statements and the representations in these applications are true and correct. And it is, and I'll lastly say that it's not many times that you have an opportunity to improve the lives of hundreds of people at once, and denying this special permit would take a step in that direction and moving and improving the lives of many residents in the heart of Oklahoma City. Thank you.
Thank you. Krisha, how do you pronounce the last name?
Good afternoon. Kresha Redis.
Redis.
Two
Thank you.
short E's. 604 Bass Circle. Thank you for what you do and the time to listen. I lived in Moore and decided to move to Oklahoma City during all the maps back in 2008 because I thought I was moving up. I thought I was going for a better quality of life, and I didn't, unfortunately. So the house that I'm in is only 16 years old. However, if you walk inside, it probably looks like it's decades old. Why? Because there are cracks in the ceilings. Our concrete floor that's exposed has cracks. I'm not going to say the recycling plants did it all. I'm not going to say that, but they certainly contributed to it. And so I want to submit to you that it's probably time for a change. A lot of things have happened for decades and decades and decades, but maybe it's time for a change for Oklahoma City. A lot of things are changing in Oklahoma City, and that's why I came. I don't want to regret that. You guys have the power to actually create the change or ignite the change that needs to happen with the I-3 and the I-1, or the residential R1 and I-3. It's a conflict, and we need more attention on that, and I'm so glad that we're here today to share with you guys all the things that we're dealing with. So I wish that you could feel what we feel. I wish that you were in your library, in your homes, and just experience that explosion and that boom, and how devastating that is in the moment, how it takes the peace away. You don't know when it's coming, and then you stop and you text your JFK president so that we can log. So this is like a practice for us. This is a quality of life in Oklahoma City. Is that what we want, right? Is that what you want? It's intense, it's a nuance, it's unnecessary, and it disturbs the peace. And then when there are fires and there's a south wind, guess who gets it? We get that, right? So I submit to you that it's a time for a change. There's an environmental injustice that's happening that we're living, or that we're a part of right now. We're in the moment, and it's time for a change. So I ask that you vote people over money in this situation, and you ignite the fire toward the change that should come in JFK neighborhood. Thank you.
All right, that's all I have signed up. Is there anybody else who wants to address the board on this application? Okay. David, you want to respond?
Just quickly, Cooper Hahn, 525 Northwest 11, on behalf of the applicant. There's been some discussion kind of about the non-conforming use ordinances. First off, they're required by law. They're not like an olive branch that the city of Oklahoma City uniquely allows. Every city has to have them if they want to enforce zoning ordinances. And then you heard from the city that it's their opinion that this more efficient machine is going to intensify the use. Simply, the output potential creates a more intense use. There's a couple problems with that, really. First, the Supreme Court of Oklahoma has already held a mere increase in volume, intensity, or frequency of non-conforming use is generally recognized as insufficient to invalidate it. The same court went on to say a proposed use must create a substantial change in nature, character, or purpose of the pre-existing non-conforming use before it is no longer allowed. So a machine getting more efficient can not invalidate its legal non-conforming use. That is simply not a basis. The Supreme Court has told us that. The second problem with that is this isn't going to increase the intensity. An exhibit was actually submitted showing the noise associated with the shear. Again, the shear is not really the issue with noise, but this new shear will result in a 32% decrease in noise. It goes from maximum of 125 decibels to about a little less than 85 decibels. So this is simply not an increase in intensity whatsoever. And even if it were, the Supreme Court has told us that that cannot be used to nullify its legal nonconforming use. Another note is the current shear is on its way out, but it is still operational. And I think it's been mentioned that it can operate around the clock, and that is true. The hour restrictions are actually only for the shredder. So if the same amount of material comes to the site that needs to go through the shear, right now, that shear is going to have to operate longer hours than the new one that would propose. So if anything, we have a reduction in noise and a reduction in time that this machine would need to operate. That would be a decrease in intensity, if anything. I'd probably turn it back over to David if he has anything to close with.
Just in closing, I want to make the point on the hours. The hours were brought up. The only limitation that exists on hours is on the shredder. There is no such limitation on the shear. The shredder is not being touched here. That's continuing to operate. The shear has no such hour limitation. So with that, again, we believe that the merits, the law are both on our side. We would ask that you reverse the decision made by Mr. Butler. Thank you.
Jeff, go ahead.
Just wanted to make one more comment by way of clarification. The code said, and this is important to the decision, a nonconforming use shall not be expanded or moved in whole or in part to any other portion of the lot or parcel on which it is located. What Mr. Box has asserted is that the entire parcel is the use. But if we follow that logic to its conclusion, what it essentially means is if they're using the whole lot and it's covered with scrap metal, they can essentially add as many shear or shredders as they want to, and it will never be an expansion. I disagree with that. To me, not only is the the shear being moved, it is being expanded quite a bit in size, both in height and in breadth. So I just wanted to clarify kind of one of the main points that we based our decision on, that I based my decision on. Thank you.
Okay.
Just very briefly, only to that point. Right now, the operation of the shear requires them to drive machineries around the shear. It is not the footprint. We're not limited by the footprint. The use of that shear extends well beyond the footprint of the shear, and it always has. So the idea that it doesn't expand to other parts of the property is incorrect. It's just impossible. It has to go collect scrap metal using movable cranes, feed the machine, another machine, and with a magnet has to then remove that scrap metal. So it is far beyond the footprint that you see of the existing shear. That use expands the vast majority of the property. But we are also fine replacing our new shear in the exact location so that it's not moving. Again, the new shear is operational all around it, but we're fine with moving it to there if that solves that issue.
Okay. Laura, go ahead.
All right, my apologies. Just very briefly, I wanted to clarify just 2 points, and we will hopefully wrap this up for you all. Wanted to really point out the fact that according to their stormwater quality permit application, they are disturbing 9 of 12 acres of the entire site. So they're constructing new buildings, they're doing 9 acres of paving. This is substantial. There's a taller crane, there's retaining walls. This is not a simple swap for swap, making this just an extension of their existing non-conforming use. This is an increase in the intensity of what is happening on the site. And with that we would ask that you uphold the Director of Planning's decision to deny the permit.
Questions, comments from the board?
Yeah, I have a few of them. And before I start, I will state, just so that it's clear, like there's a lot of concerns, the explosions, the health concerns, the smog in the atmosphere, zoning compatibility, and even poor operation by the applicant. I'm not dismissive of those things. I think a lot of times it's important to be clear, and I'm grateful that you clarified before this case came before us that this is an appeal of a decision that has already been made. So while I can appreciate the concerns on a lot of these things, I do think that they're outside of our purview. If it were just about that, you had me at explosion. I don't like when people knock on the door too loud. So with that being said, I don't, there's a couple of things that I guess I don't understand. And David, if you can speak to, you made the claim early on that the shear was different than the shredder and that the shear doesn't make any of this noise. Yeah. I have no idea how this operates. I'm assuming none of the residents have any idea how this operates. What do we have other than you just stating that, hey, this doesn't make the noise? How do we have any assurances of that?
Yeah, well, you have the materials, and again, it's two different types of machines. The shredder is where larger things like fridges, cars, and those things are placed. The explosions happen when something isn't properly checked and it goes through the shredder because it's taking that giant car and then you'll have a combustion. The shear, think of like an I-beam. It's thinner pieces of metal that go through the shear. They're just two different types of equipment.
So is it the case that is it correct that it has never been the case that anything that has gone through the shear has caused an explosion?
100%.
So this machine doesn't cause any explosions whatsoever?
No explosion has ever come from the shear. Any explosions have come from the shredder. The shear does not cause explosions.
Okay, you also made the statement earlier that the requirement for stormwater was initiated by the sheer fact that you had to get a building permit. But if that was the case, would you have the detention pond? Would the detention pond be necessary? Or is that a result of adding new impervious paving?
So I'm going to let the engineer touch that if you're okay, Mr. Uday.
Yeah.
Caleb Morgan, Johnson Associates, 1 East Sheridan. The stormwater permit was a result of some of the improvements on site that included pavement at one point to allow this to be more efficient and a cleaner work site and safer work site. So they had paving they were proposing across the site. They have recently decided not to do that pavement and try to scale everything back and just do what they need to replace. So the stormwater permit and the detention requirements were kicked off because of that. So they had additional paving on site just to make things cleaner and safer, and they've decided to pare that back. So if we do that and we're just replacing the shredder, we won't have all that additional paving, we won't have detention, we don't have as much disturbance. So that's what they're hoping to do, is just replace the shear.
So as of right now, you're saying you're not doing any of those other improvements?
That's right. It was planned to, but as this process went on, and they wanted to just replace and no longer kind of do any more work than they had to just to replace that piece of machinery. They were planning to make things safer, like I mentioned, and cleaner. But now they're just planning to just replace the shear.
If I could, I'm going to have Mr. Skimica kind of dig in more detail on that distinction between the shear and the shredder, if you would like to.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, and thank you. I'm Peter Skimica. I've been Dershberg's lawyer since I was an intern in 2006. I'm very familiar with their operations. I'm very familiar with the issues that are created by their operations, and I'm even familiar with some of these good folks behind me. Many of them are my friends. So the shredder, a semi-load comes in full of cars. Okay, these cars have been compacted. Oftentimes, or sometimes, the gas tanks in these cars still have gas in them. And sometimes people put propane bottles underneath the dash. So a car with this, and we have a lot of procedures in place to guard against this, but it's not 100%. So sometimes one of these gas tanks or propane bottles, makes it past our safety protocols and gets put in the shredder and grinds it up, boom. That's what creates the explosions. The shredder is literally a big scissors. They cut the I-beams. They cut big pieces of metal. There's no explosion that's ever happened because of the shear, and that's why. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I just got a couple more questions for David. So in regards to the legal non-conforming use, so I do tend to agree that efficiency is not necessarily intensity. I think cars are more fuel efficient. That doesn't necessarily mean that the cars themselves have a higher intensity. But when I look at the code, I think that Mr. Butler brought up a very valid point in that 59-15200 says a non-conforming use shall not be expanded or moved in whole or in part. And if I'm understanding your argument correctly, you're simply saying you're not moving it because that whole site or this arbitrary area around it is a part of that machinery?
Yeah, so if you look at the images, scrap exists throughout the whole site. And so the crane goes and gets the pieces across the whole site and puts it into the shear. And so the use of shearing the material is encompassed in the whole site. Because in order to push the material to the shear, the crane has to go get it wherever it's located on the site. It's not confined to the dot where the shear is located. The use of shearing is a combination of getting the material put into the shear and getting it output, which occurs on the site, not limited to the one spot.
So if you drew the limits of it, you would say it would be to the extent that the crane could reach?
Yes, sir. Again, well, we're fine if it's the desire of the board to limit it to the footprint of where the current shear is, that's fine. The way that these uses operate, it's the entirety of the site because that is where the material is located.
And is that the same in regards to the requirement that the improvements or remodeling that do not increase the size? I don't believe it increases the intensity, so I'm just concerned with the size.
Yeah. To increase the size, if we were seeking to expand into additional land area, that would be an increase in size. Utilizing the same land today that the shear currently utilizes is not an increase in size. Expanding the footprint geographically to additional land area would be an increase in size. And they try to make a distinction that the increase this, and I think his words were, it may be slightly bigger. The machine is slightly bigger because it's now an electric machine and not a diesel-powered machine. That in and of itself, that's simply the modernization of this.
Yeah, I'm struggling with that one because in order to get behind this, we'd have to interpret this as meaning that if we apply this across all aspects where this may show up in the code, in any other use, for any reason, we would say that this size requirement would mean the addition of new land. And that's the part that I just can't see that being the case.
Sure. So put it in context of a home. Okay, you've got a home that sits on a single-family home that sits on O2 property, and it's legally non-conforming because for whatever reason, sometime in the past, the city zoned it O2, so therefore it's legally non-conforming. And they seek to add bedrooms to it, expand the house, make an addition to the house. That's an increase in size. We are not making any more space for using the shear than we have right now. The same area, the same land area, the same amount. We're not increasing the size of the site in which we shear.
I get the argument. I struggle with that. Because the flip side of that same coin is you have by that definition, if a piece of equipment is sold that is 5 times as large as this, 5 times the capacity, whatever the case may be, then we wouldn't be able to do anything about it. We would say that this doesn't increase the size simply because it fits on the parcel.
Yeah, so, well, here I think the distinction is what we have submitted is an in-kind replacement. We're not seeking an out-of-kind replacement.
Well, I disagree with that. It's in kind in the sense that it accomplishes the same thing. It's out of kind in the sense that the old equipment is obsolete, so you can't replace it in kind.
Correct.
And I understand that, but I'm just saying that if the argument is going to be based on the fact that the size doesn't increase because the size of the parcel hasn't increased, the size of the land that is being used on hasn't increased, that creates a slippery slope anytime that we run into this issue.
Sarah, could you show the aerial? So if you look at the aerial, obviously this predates today. You'll see that the material touches almost the entirety. We're not seeking to increase that.
Any other questions or comments? Because I've got one. And this question goes to both Laura and David. Help me understand use. It looks like use. It looks to me like we have a big piece of property. It is use unit, scrap operations, and that covers the entirety of the track.
Yes.
So are you saying that the use is the shear and the footprint where it's mounted?
So what our position is that 5900, 15200, which is the non-conforming, point 1, non-conforming uses of land is what's applicable here, and that this is the use of this whole site, so regardless of the equipment that's on there. And this section does not permit for modernization and only allows for existing non-conforming uses to continue, but does not allow for in any kind of increase in intensity or capacity or modernization, whether it's moving from diesel to electric. That is not contemplated by this section. So that would be our position.
Okay.
Also, just as a point of clarification, if the board were to decide today to uphold Mr. Butler's decision to deny the permit, then the appellant's routes forward are either to go apply for a special permit, which would enable city council to put these conditions on that have been ongoing issues for the neighborhood, or they could appeal this to district court. So this isn't necessarily the end of the road. This is just one step in the process.
Okay. David, same question.
Well, so ask your question again, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm struggling with the definition of use.
I am too.
It looks like this big piece of property is use unit, scrap operation.
Correct, it is, the whole thing. And within that, there's 2 separate components occurring on site. The shredder, which is not an issue, and the shear. I'm not sure what the city is attempting to do by saying replacing one component of it with this new machine somehow loses non-conforming status as to that one machine or the entirety of the use. I think they're saying the one machine, which I think is a bigger problem for the city's position.
Okay, go ahead, Laura.
Any increase in the intensity or modernization we think is inappropriate here. So our position would be that they can continue to operate as they have been as a non-conforming use, and then the city doesn't have the real ability to be able to regulate them. But at the point in time when they need to be improving their machinery in order to continue to use, that's why we have the non-conforming section, is that in zoning it's appropriate sometimes as cities change that, and as they develop, that then these uses are gradually eliminated.
Well, her her opinion flies in the face of the state Supreme Court when they say, however, a mere increase in volume, intensity, or frequency of a nonconforming use is generally recognized as insufficient to invalidate it. Okay. So respectfully to Ms. McDevitt, the state Supreme Court disagrees with her sentiments.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question. Looking at 59-152-200B, where it says a non-conforming use shall not be expanded or moved in whole or in part to any other portion of the lot or parcel on which it is located. So if we're talking about the machinery here, I guess my question is, does the existing shearer, is that use or that piece of equipment going to be moved to a different part? And is it going to be expanded? Because it seems that there were some diagrams in here that would indicate that there is some expansion or change involved.
No expansion. Again, the way that the use functions, it is a function of the entire site. It's not just the one component. It's a combination of the crane that gets the material, takes it to the shear. The use is the entirety of the site, not the dot on the map where the shear itself is, because the use, to Mr. Voorhees' point, is scrap operations. Scrap operations is more encompassing than just the moment the material hits the shear. The scrap operations is the entire process from getting it on site, moving it from where it is to the shear, and what gets output. So we agree with this. We're not moving it, we're not expanding it, because the whole site has been for decades and will continue to be used for scrap operations.
Do you have a different interpretation?
Yes, we would say that they should not be rewarded for the fact that they have spread the scrap all over the site, and then there's nothing that the city can ever do in order to bring them into compliance with the zoning code. That necessarily doesn't make sense, and it's contrary to public policy.
Well, that's what we're getting to here, right? Is the city attorney's office is trying to introduce policy-making choices to what is a quasi-judicial board. The city council is the policymakers here, not the board. I'm glad she said that, because that's really what is at issue here. Well, the city council, as the policymaker, could go do something. They could condemn it. They could go buy it. They could do all the things. They can't afford it. So what they're trying to do is reduce down the value by claiming because we're putting one new component on the site, we have somehow lost our legally nonconforming status.
No, I would strongly disagree with Mr. Box's contention that we're doing anything to try and drive down the value of the site. It is that we are trying to remedy what has been decades of conflict between the surrounding neighborhood and the effects of urban renewal, and now is the opportunity to bring this site into compliance and not allow them to continue to indefinitely operate.
Okay. Anything else from the board?
I think for me, I'm looking at the argument of efficiency, and while I agree, going back to my engineering days, while I agree that you can make something more efficient to produce more, you can also make it more efficient to produce the same amount but with less effort. With regards to the Supreme Court case, I don't know if the equipment or whatever they were considering in that case itself was a new piece of machinery, or was it the existing one, right? So if we're keeping the old shear in this case but producing more, which I don't know if that would require a special permit to produce more, I think that would be a different consideration. I think for me personally is I can't get past the statement that's been read over and over again. I agree that from reading 59-15200 subpart .1 subpart B, it says a non-conforming use shall not be expanded or moved in whole or in part to any other portion of the lot or parcel. It seems to indicate to me that the non-conforming use is not granted as to the whole lot or the parcel itself, but rather there's got to be some geographic limitations. So in this case, the only thing I can get behind is the old footprint that it has. And by the notice of appeal itself, it says that the new shear machine is slightly larger in size compared to the existing shear. To me, that seems to indicate that it is in size, the footprint itself of the machine is larger, and by that I think that the city had reason to to deny that request. That's kind of where I stand.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay. Yes, only if you have something different or additional. Give us your name again, please, for the record.
Yes, sir. My name is Walter Jacks, 4832 Kells Drive. Yeah, there's been an argument about capacity, about expansion. The shear is not the shredder. The shear is not the one that makes the loud noises that blows things up. There are a lot of distinctions here, finer points that I think are moot. It seems like, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, that this kind of recycling operation has two major pieces of equipment. There's the shredder and there's the shear. And Mr. Boxer said, well, the shear is not the shredder. It's not the one that doesn't make a lot of noise and it doesn't blow cars up. We heard from the attorney from the place, and remember what he said, that the cars coming in that go into that shredder have been compacted. And sometimes they have propane bottles in them. And he said that they have a lot of safety measures in place and procedures in place, but in his words, it's not 100%. Now, this operation, it seems like the shear and the shredder are codependent. If you don't have them both in place, then you don't really have an effective recycling operation. And again, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. But again, we've used decades and decades. It's been there decades and decades. If they replace that shear, the owner is going to anticipate that that continue to be there for decades and decades. And then when that shredder wears out, they're going to want to replace it. But even, listening to the attorney for the place, they have no control over cars and propane tanks that are coming into that place that have not been adequately purged. And those explosions are going to continue and continue and continue for decades and decades. And their only response to that is, oops, it happened again. There is not going to be any stopping it until they can 100% control the input of automobiles and propane tanks into their operation, and they are not doing that. Thank you.
Okay. I think we're about ready for a motion if somebody wants to try.
I make a motion then to affirm the city's decision in case number 16039.
I will second.
Okay, the motion is to affirm the decision that would deny the appeal. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay. Motion is second. Cast your votes. There we go. Okay. Okay. All right. I don't have any additional items. We don't have any board committees. Anybody want to talk? Ready? No. Nope. Citizens to be heard? I don't have any other business. I think we're adjourned.